Okay, so today's chat is about dreams. So I'm going to talk about dreams and what the significance I think it is within your life and how dreams, a little bit of history with dreams. So dreams have been around forever, right? It's what we dream when we're, asleep. And so there's REM, which is rapid eye movement, and there's all sorts of really specific cases that have studied, dreams and when it is that we dream more. I just recently read an article in Scientific American, which is very interesting, and I forget who the author is, so please forgive me. So the whole thing about that is that since now, because of COVID, we we're in house, right, and we're here, and so the commuting time of having to go and work somewhere, most people are not, so we're sleeping longer, and we're it's very interesting. So we're sleeping longer and we're sleeping better, which is very interesting. And that sort of comes to me as well, because I'm usually up by 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I get running and this and that or whatever. But now, since I don't have to physically go somewhere, right, like to school, where I've always sort of had to go to school like by 7:30, then I had to start my day much earlier. So I had to make sure that that breakfast and lunch was made, and then that I would go and run and then shower and get everything ready and get my day starting for my work, right? But now I've noticed that during the pandemic, like between 5 and 6, and even if I sleep later at 7, which I've never ever in my life done that, but at an occasion I have recently because of COVID, and sometimes I try to sleep longer in the mornings, because I have noticed that that's when I have my dreams, and that's when I remember them the most, because you sort of dream all night. Supposedly there's more activity during REM time, which is a certain amount of time within your dream, your dream state. And so I have noticed that I have been dreaming much more, like between 5 and 7. So sometimes I try to sleep longer, so that way I can dream at those times, and the dreams will come. Why do I want that? Because I believe that dreams are prophetic to your life. And I don't know if that's a correct word, but it's a prophecy. So I believe that dreams are different things, right? So sometimes, and I've mentioned this before, like if you've eaten a lot and you go mimes, like if you have a full stomach and you go to sleep, I call mimes, right? That's what we call them. So if you go mimes, if you go to sleep, you've eaten a lot, or you've eaten really late. I try not to eat past 6 or 7. I'm sort of like an old lady in that sense. I have very structured dietary habits that I have. So I won't try to eat later than 7. It won't be heavy. It won't be a heavy meal. And if I have a snack, because I'm hungry or whatever, it'll usually be fruit. Now, there's old wives' tales about, eating watermelon at night and like banana, and that it gives you nightmares. I don't know for sure. I don't know. It really, I think, depends on how it is, and what it is that you eat, right? And sometimes I think that so if you eat and it's heavy, right, you're gonna tend to have like nightmares. Also, I've noticed that when I've had surgery, or I've been sedated, or I've been heavily medicated, I have like really bizarre dreams, and really heavy dreams as well. Also, when you're pregnant, you have like a lot of, dreams as well that are really, really weird and bizarre. So dreams in of itself are different at different stages in your life, and they are for different purposes. Okay. So if you have a heavy stomach, you might have dreams or whatever, and they might be nightmares. So that's one thing. The other thing is that subconsciously, I believe that there's certain things that you sort of notice during the day, or whatever, and that you didn't pay attention to. So maybe your dreams, bring light to whatever it is that is of importance that you sort of missed during the day. So that's one. The other thing is that I do think also that dreams are, sometimes when with past loved ones, you have visitations. And so I believe that you are visited by your past loved ones, people that have died, that are very connected to you, and they come and visit you. Usually those dreams are very, very interesting because usually in dreams, people do not speak. It's all telepathic, okay? And they're very specific dreams, okay? They're very specific messages, okay? So they're short and concise, okay? And I'll talk about dreams. I'll talk about the message. It's very interesting. So the message is short and concise, and their mouth doesn't move. Okay, they just telepathically, like they are telling you whatever it is that they need to tell you, and they're usually not very long sentences. They're usually phrases, and it usually is in an environment that is important, right? Or soothing. Maybe you dream your past loved ones, like, you know, like with sun or in meadows, right? Like Mama drowned my father one day, and I think they were like in a like lavender meadow. And so that's spirituality, that's higher powers, that's, you know, connectedness. And it was just a very beautiful dream. They just, you know, they were just together in loving kindness. And so, you know, there was no words there, right? So usually when there's communication, it's telepathic, or it's like an emotion, or you know, and they're very short messages, okay? Which leads me to messages. You know, anything that has to do with esoteric, right? Things that you could, that are not tangible, things that are spiritual, things that are religious, right? Because religion and spirituality is very different, okay? But you can merge both of them, all right? You know, and the more religious that you are, the more constrained you are. Okay, and that's not a diss to religion, because I'm Catholic and I'm very Catholic. Okay, whatever that means, because I've adjusted. Like my children tell me, "Mommy, you just pick and choose whatever it is that you want," and that's absolutely true. I have created like a mesh between spirituality and religion, you know, and I've incorporated Christianity, but I've also incorporated Buddhism and Confucius, I think is what it's called, right? When I went to China, so please forgive me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. And he's not necessarily Buddhist; that's a whole different deal, and that isn't even religion. So yes, I have sort of meshed whatever it is that I want. So when we are in tune and when we are open for the message, because we get a lot of messages daily. You know, I live my life by spirituality and messages, but I'm also extremely smart, and I'm very you know, I try to read a lot, so I try to become very knowledgeable in my area and sort of like my symbolism. That's why I do, you know, dream interpretations, because symbolism is everything in terms of dreams and in terms of interpretation, right? So for me, it's like a diet, right? And I don't mean diet that you're starving yourself, but it's like exercise or a diet, or it's like a lifestyle. I have incorporated my spirituality, my religion, and all my beliefs daily. Like I meditate daily, I pray daily, and it's something that is part of my life. So whenever I'm walking and I see these things, right, whatever is highlighted to me, whatever I notice, that's something important. Or maybe as I'm walking, I'm thinking of something, and then I get confirmation on that. Okay, so your dreams are sometimes, when you're visited by your past loved ones, is a message that you need to hear, okay, or that they want to convey. All right. And usually, you know, you need to be open, and sometimes it's very confusing. That's why you need a dream interpreter, right? Because it just sort of doesn't make sense. So you have these dreams like flying, or you have these dreams that are impossible for you in the physical realm to be able to have done, but you have them anyway, whatever the dream is. And then you start justifying. Don't justify it. Whatever the dream is what it is, and that's the message. And the person that is able to decipher and to be able to interpret the message, then those symbolisms are important. So don't be, a lot of people try to, you know, say, well, you know, I was like, you know, like that dream that I said, you know, the unicycle, you know, and I was going down the freeway and it was snowing, but there was no cars. I don't know why there wasn't any car. Don't worry about that. That's not the message, right? But our mind tries to make, you know, sense of it all, right? And so when we have these dreams where we are visited, it's a message, and usually the message is non-verbal, but it's telepathic. And usually whatever it is that the message is important, okay? Or either to you or to the deceased person, or about something that's happening. Now, there's also visitations by people that are alive. So if you are very connected, right, but you're on the other side of the world, or you're like super far away, or whatever, you can be very connected. And because of the energy and because of your connectedness to that person, then they either come to you in dreams, or yeah, in dreams, and then something sort of, you know, plays out in the dream, right? So so there's those dreams as well, that they're visitations, whether from past loved ones or from people that are actually alive, right, that are currently living. That sounds kind of weird. The other thing is also you have prophecy dreams. So you have dreams that are prophetic, and I don't know if that's the correct word. I should have looked for it first. And it's a prophecy. Okay. And so what it means is that that's coming to you. That's where you're going to be. That's where you're going to. That's what's going to happen in the future. And only you and your symbolism and the dream interpreter, right, will understand it. So when I first went to Spain, okay, like a year before, or about a year and a half before, it was very interesting because I had these recurring dreams. Recurring dreams are very, very interesting, and I'll get to recurring dreams, okay? Because so we had these, I had these dreams of when I went to China, and this is real life, right? So when I went to China, we went to the Potala Palace, which is where all the Dalai Lamas are buried, and they're in these beautiful, huge, like golden caskets, and they're all there, and that Potala Palace is where the Dalai Lama used to live before he, fled, right, or can extradited. He didn't get extradited. You know, they were persecuting him, so he left. So the Dalai Lama in Tibet is not there anymore, but that's where the Dalai Lamas used to live. So the Potala Palace is where, like, their home, right, their castle, or their, not their castle, their temples, please forgive me. And so I went to the Potala Palace. And so and if you check out Tibet, the first image that comes out is this, like, palace, this Potala Palace, that's like embedded in like this, you know, mountain, and that's the first image that comes. And so and that's where the Dalai Lamas used to be. So when you get out of the Potala Palace, and this is real life, you come into, like, you go down like this, like cobbled pathway, and then you come into like the village to like Tibet, to the city, or I don't know what it's called, right? And so, and then you go into, like, they have these prayer wheels that you sort of, as you know, as you leave, you sort of, spin, right? Because prayer wheels, you sort of pray, and you do your prayer, and you spin the prayer wheels, and there was like 32 prayer wheels, and you walk down and you spin the prayer wheels while you're praying and you're meditating and you're asking God for whatever it is that you're asking, okay? And then after that, you sort of come into this, like I guess in American terms is like farmers market, but it's sort of a market. It's like an international, very exotic market, right? And it sort of looked Moroccan. So I've never been to Morocco, and I really want to go, but it sort of looked Moroccan. So there was like a lot of like jewelry and things that they were selling, and then like tapestries, and then they had like Morocco, I imagine, like these drapes, right, that sort of drape as ceilings like that. And then we went into this very interesting restaurant, and I didn't realize that was my wedding gift. Okay, that was like my honeymoon with my second husband when we went to China, and we took Mama, which was really neat. So we went into this like this restaurant that was Moroccan, and I've never been to Morocco, right? And it had like these like cloths, draped in the ceiling, and then they had these like cushions, and then you sat on the floor, or you sat, in the cushions and everything. It was beautiful, right? So I had that experience, okay, when I went to Tibet the second time, and it was I guess now that I look back, it was my honeymoon. My husband took me to, so my significant other. So anyway. So what happened is that, going back to the dream, right? So before I went to Spain, I had this recurring dream, for about a year and a half, and I would be going into these markets and these like towns and these like it was very interesting, and I just didn't know where I was, right? And I just kept on, it didn't make any sense. At the time, I had always wanted to go to El Camino Santiago and the pilgrimage to Spain, but I didn't have any plans on going. I had planned it a year before, but it didn't come out. I had a lot of changes in my life, and I just couldn't make it. And so I dreamt a year before I went to Spain on my pilgrimage exactly what I lived in Spain. And what I lived in Spain is that you walk like, 12 miles daily, which is 21 kilometers daily, and you enter these little towns and these little pueblitos, right? And it's different every single time, every single day. And I did that for 30 days. And so I finally, when I was in the path and I was going into these little pueblitos, right? I realized, I said, this is what I've been dreaming. That's the recurring dream that I had, where I would walk into like these markets or these like streets, cobbled stones, or these like these like towns. I was like going into these towns. So that was a prophetic dream, which means that that was a prophecy. It was like I looked into the future without actually knowing that I was going to go to Spain. Okay, so some of your dreams are prophetic, they're prophecies, right? It's sort of and I keep and I keep thinking about this and keep reiterating this. It's sort of like biblical in the Bible, right? In the Bible, I think it was King Solomon, I'm not sure, please forgive me, but there was that king, and so he asked his dream interpreter. Now, let me tell you, dream interpreters were very highly valued, okay? They were seen as priests, they were seen as priestesses, they were very highly regarded in past, in the past, like when there was kings and, in Christianity time and all that. And they have always had a special place because they felt that they had been gifted by God, right? Or the gods, depending on, Egypt had different gods or whatever. And they could look into the future and decipher whatever it is that the dream was. And so they were dream interpreters, and everybody referenced them, and they were like teachers. They were holy men. Okay, so it was highly regarded to be a dream interpreter. Right now, like I can't, I have this gift, and I can't have people tap into it. It's crazy, right? I don't know what to do, in terms of my YouTube channel, because this is really about giving a service to the collective, which is us, right? Humanity. I do these videos and I've studied dream interpretation because I feel guided, given my gift, because I feel it's a gift, that I have to help people, because through your dreams you help people, right? And through your own dreams, and I mean, I help them, but what I mean is that through your own dreams you can live a better life, because subconsciously or not, right? Or through visitations, or through being able to see the future, or being able to prophesize, right? You are able to self correct the path that you're in, if it needs correction, or it's a reinforcement that you're on the right path, or it's or it's a view of the future of whatever's coming, or it's feeling of being maybe soothed because you see a past loved one, or if you're in separation with a loved one here physically, you have that sense of connectedness. Okay, so back to the king story, right? So the king dreams that there's seven, fat cows, and then there's seven skinny cows, right? And so the dream interpreter, I don't know that I would have been able to interpret that now. So it also has to do with the time, right? And the era of whatever is happening, okay? Because right now I wouldn't have known what seven cows, skinny cows and fat cows are. Maybe to a rancher, maybe someone, or maybe because of that, of that experience and that knowledge that I have, if it comes up, maybe I can reference it. So it's a lot of cross-referencing, in terms of me being able to do what I do. So going back to it, right? So the king has that dream where he has seven cows that are fat and seven cows that are thin, and that progression is important. Okay, so don't make anything up and don't try to justify anything when you're having a dream interpreter interpret your dreams, because it has to be how you remember it, and it has to be how it is that you saw your dream and what it is that was said. Okay, because everything is important. If you saw it and you heard it, right, telepathically, or you sensed it, it needs to be stated because it's important. So the dream interpreter, or the priest in that sense, because they weren't called dream interpreters, right, is told them there's famine that's going to come, but it's after 7 years of plenty. So what they did is that, and he ruled, right? The king ruled. So what he did is that for 7 years, right? Because there was plenty and there was harvest and there was abundance. They prepared for it. So they prepared for 7 years and put away, I'm getting chills, and they put away food, and they prepared for the famine that was coming. And then after the 7 years, famine came. So there was no abundance. There was no crops, whatever the famine was, right? Pest or whatever, right? That they couldn't, but they were ready because they absorbed it and they understood the dream. And that's exactly what dreams are. They prepare you sort of for the future, or they help you self-correct, or they help soothe your emotions because you are in such dire need of maybe contact of someone that has passed, and there was things that needed to be corrected or things that needed to be said, and maybe those things are not discussed there, but maybe your visitation comes through love, right? They love you, and you feel it, and that's all you need to know, right? Which leads me to messages that you get in spirit realm or through prayer or whatever. And it really has to do, when you're meditating or when you're at silence, right? The other day I was washing dishes, and I hardly don't wash dishes, not a dish or whatever, but I hardly don't wash dishes, but I was washing dishes that day, and something came to me, and I got a message, okay? And so that is when spirit speaks to you. That is when you speak to yourself. That is when God speaks to you. That is when divine and divinity speaks to you and graces you with whatever it is that the message is. And so when I was quiet, while I was washing dishes, a message came to me that's very important to me. And so I understood it, right? So you don't need to meditate and be, meditating or whatever. It could be a walk. It could be, while you're quiet, washing dishes or ironing, or you get an aha moment or whatever. That's when spirit speaks to you. The other way is through dreams, right? Your spirit guides, if you believe them, angels, your guardians, your past loved ones. Know that your past loved ones are with you, and if you open yourself up, you can feel them. Okay, so your dreams are a perfect time to be able to explore things that are bothering you, right? With like maybe past loved ones, maybe things that you didn't, that need to be given more attention, right? And they're also messages, okay? Sometimes also the dreams don't make any sense, and it just is what it is. One time I read this, I was reading this book, and I think it's Brian Wise is what his name is, and he's like, he's an MD, and he does past life regressions, and so he does hypnosis. And so through the hypnosis, the spirits came through, if you believe in that, and the spirit, I do, and the spirits came through, and they sort of said, we really messed up on the message, right? And so I believe that they try as best as they can, your past loved ones or your spirits, to bring in a clear message. That's why there hardly is not a lot of like message, right? Because the more message there is, the more confusion there is about the message. So the clearer and the shorter the message is, that's it. Sometimes we want to know this and we want to know that. That's not the message. Focus on the message and whatever the message was, and that's it. It's usually pretty simple. Don't want to expound on other things, because then you're going to lose what the full message is, okay? So anyway, so back to Wise, right? So that they just sort of screwed up on the message, and they didn't deliver the message correctly. So sometimes we get dreams and they just don't make any sense, and that's it. Maybe later they make sense, right? And so there's also prophetic dreams, like prophecy, right? So I dreamt that I was going to Spain, but I didn't know that it was Spain, right? The other thing is that I had deja vu, and I don't want to incorporate this, but just so you'll know. So one time, I don't know if I had deja vu or I dreamt it, but I dreamt that I was looking at a specific landscape, right? A specific scene, because they're sort of like snippets, right? Snips of scenes of, like, it's like watching a movie or watching a video, right? And you just get to see just a little frame of whatever it is that they're showing you, or whatever it is that your subconscious is trying to show you. And what I dreamt was that I was like doing a duty. So I'm a principal, right? So at school you go do duty. So when the buses get there, you have to be outside and you do duty, take care of the kids and all that, and make sure that everything runs smoothly. So I was doing duty, and I was in the bus run, But I was in a place that I did not recognize if they weren't my schools. I was already a principal at the time, and they were not my schools. They were not my schools. What I saw and what the grounds were and the buses that they were not my school. So fast forward, right, later, like 5 years later, I was doing duty when I was a high school principal, and boom, right, I got deja vu, or who knows if it was deja vu, who knows if it was a dream. I saw that frame, and I saw the buses, and I saw exactly what I saw. And I had 5 acres of agriculture in my school, and so I saw that, right? That's why it didn't make any sense before, because I was at school, but there was like alfalfa, right? And there was like, John Deere, like tractors and stuff, and I couldn't figure it out. Well, 5 years later, I went into a high school that had FFA, and we cultivated alfalfa, and we were out, in the valley. So I had, it was a prophecy, right, or a future vision of where I was going to be. But at the time, it didn't make any sense to me because I had not lived it. But once I lived it, I realized that that's what it was. So sometimes you can see and you can dream things much way into the future that make no sense, but later they make sense. Sort of like my pilgrimage to Spain. So I hope this helps a little bit. I do recommend, my family keeps on telling me, you need to tell them. So I do recommend that when you get up, you write down your dream, because if you think you're going to remember, but you don't remember, and there's a lot of details that are significant, that as time passes, you forget what the dream is, right? And you forget the details. So I highly encourage you, if you're interested, to keep a journal right next to your bed and write it in, or get your phone, which I don't. I sort of like to write things out and then type it out, right, in your phone, or text it out, and then write down the date and write down everything that you saw. I did a dream interpretation for one of my students, and it was so vivid that she said, Miss, I had to write it down. And she did. She wrote it all down, and it was very, very, very detailed, and it was very explicit, and it was very interesting because the message was beautiful. And so I was able to decipher the message and give her the message. So make sure that you write them down, and then sometimes, like, we wake up, right, and we say, this is the dream, and we're too lazy because we're really in a deep sleep, and then we'll say, well, we're going to remember in the morning. You won't remember. So if you're interested, you need to write it down there, and at the time that you wake up, just write it down. And if you have a pad next to you and a pencil, just write it down. And if you put in the dates, it'll tell you and it'll show, so you can go back and you can also see your patterns, because the progression of your dreams also have to do with what you've gone through life, right? And I'll talk about recurring dreams later, because recurring dreams is a whole different topic and conversation. But this is a little snippet about what dreams are, and what I have figured out, how dreams work, and how dreams how important dreams are. They can definitely enhance your life, and they can definitely help your life forever. I just want to close with this. Like, Freud so dreams have been studied forever, and Freud studied them. And I don't like Freud because he always did a reference to sexuality, or oppress this or oppress that. And it was Carl Jung that later came out and said that's not necessarily right. And that's absolutely what I believe. Whatever it is that you're dreaming currently is currently in your state. It's currently in your environment. It's currently in what you are living currently in your life. So it is important to decipher it, and it is important to understand them, to be able to help you along with your life. There's been a lot of dreams where they've been warnings. I had a student that dreamt while we were doing meditation. That wasn't a dream, but it's a meditation. We did meditation. I guided my students to do meditation, and she dreamt her reproductive system. She thought she was pregnant, and I told her, go get checked, and she did. She had fibroids. So dreams and meditation and visions that you get are warnings sometimes about a lot of stuff that maybe you need to tend to, right? And so because she went at the time, and I insisted a lot that she go see a doctor and this and that, then she was in good time, and the doctor said, you're in good time, and we can do this and this and that. So don't dismiss it like maybe dreams have been dismissed because, oh, it's in your subconscious. And it's in your subconscious, right? Or it's this or whatever. Be guided to trust your dreams, just like your intuition, and just like divinity and spirit visiting you and guiding you, and and use your dreams to your favor, just like you do your intuition, and just like you should with your prayers and your messages that you get without dreaming. Use your dreams to better facilitate the situations that you are going through, and to better self-correct the path. Maybe you get a dream where it's like, hey, heads up, this isn't going to work out this way, or maybe you shouldn't be with this person, or maybe you shouldn't go on this trip this time. Maybe you should just wait. So trust it. Don't be so eager to go against it, and trust it, and really, see your dreams as your crystal ball, because that's what they really are. It's tapping into a consciousness that you didn't otherwise were able to tap into, and or subconsciously, right? And it gives you a different perspective, and it gives you different answers that your normal life does not. And if you expand and you trust it, and you really work on understanding and figuring out your dreams, and really writing down what it is that you're dreaming, instead of dismissing it and saying, just I had the weirdest dream and that's it, but truly maybe finding a dream interpreter. And you can Google it, but it's not the same thing, because the dream interpreter, like in my instance, right? Not only am I a dream interpreter, but I'm very intuitive, right? And I'm psychic, and I have a third eye, and I've been blessed with the gift of sight. So you can search your Google all you want, but you really need someone to fully understand what the message is in order to interpret it for you, in order to give it to you. It's sort of like going to a German interpreter. Like, I can Google all my stuff, but I won't have the fluidity and the experience that I would have if I wanted to interpret something in German, going with a German interpreter. So it's the same deal. But most importantly, and this isn't like an advertisement for me, it really is about honoring what it is that you are dreaming, and going full force and understanding your dreams, taking the time to write them, and taking the time to understand what it is that they are telling you, so you can self-correct and do what is necessary to have a better life and go through this life much easier, and with much less, just smoother, and just go with the flow, right? Instead of having such a difficult maybe time, it can really help you navigate through those difficult times and really go through them. So if you like my video, subscribe and share and like. That'd be great. And I hope this helps with dream interpretation and what the significance of your dreams are. Much love and light. Blessings. Ciao.